I'm Sarah, a seasoned traveler, and this is the chilling encounter I had during a transatlantic flight. As a frequent flyer, I was no stranger to long-haul journeys and the inherent monotony they brought. However, on this particular flight, an unexplainable event would forever change my perception of air travel. It was a red-eye flight, and the cabin was dimly lit as passengers settled into their seats, eager to get some rest during the overnight journey. I took my seat by the window, my usual preference, and glanced around at my fellow travelers. There was nothing out of the ordinary, just tired faces, some already dozing off. As the flight took off and the cabin lights dimmed further, I tried to get comfortable in my seat, prepared for the long flight ahead. I closed my eyes, hoping to catch some sleep, but that's when I felt it, a strange presence beside me, as if someone was standing next to my seat. I opened my eyes, expecting to see a flight attendant or another passenger, but to my surprise, there was no one there. The seat next to me was empty, and the aisle was deserted. I couldn't understand what had caused that strange sensation, but it left me feeling on edge. I chalked it up to the fatigue of traveling and tried to dismiss the eerie feeling. However, as the hours passed, the presence returned, a subtle but persistent feeling that someone or something was occupying the empty seat beside me. I felt a chill run down my spine, and despite the warm cabin, I couldn't shake off the sense of coldness enveloping me. I tried to distract myself with a movie, but even the light-hearted comedy failed to alleviate my unease. I pressed the flight attendant call button and asked if they could check the area around my seat. The flight attendant, Laura, obliged and glanced around the row. "Is there something wrong, ma'am?" she asked, noticing my unease. I don't know," I stammered, unsure of how to explain the inexplicable feeling. "I just keep feeling like someone's there, but there's no one." Laura smiled, understanding my apprehension. "It's probably just the fatigue getting to you. Long flights can be disorienting sometimes. But don't worry, I'll keep an eye on this section, just to make sure everything is okay." Her reassurance did little to ease my nerves, but I thanked her nonetheless. As she walked away, I tried to rationalize the experience, attributing it to my tired mind playing tricks on me. However, as the flight continued, the presence became more pronounced. I could almost hear faint whispers, as if someone was trying to communicate with me. The feeling of being watched intensified, and I couldn't ignore it any longer. I discreetly glanced around the cabin, searching for any signs of the elusive passenger. But everyone seemed to be engrossed in their own world, oblivious to the unexplainable event unfolding beside me. As the plane crossed the Atlantic, I couldn't escape the feeling that the presence was trying to tell me something. But what? The whispers were barely audible, and I couldn't make out any words or sentences. In an act of desperation, I reached out to the person sitting across the aisle, hoping they might provide some insight. But when I turned, the seat was empty, and there was no sign of the passenger who had been sitting there earlier. Panic washed over me, and I struggled to comprehend what was happening. Was I losing my mind? Was I imagining things? The rational part of me insisted that it was all in my head, but the unease remained, gnawing at me. I decided to confide in the flight attendants, hoping they might understand my predicament. Laura listened attentively, her expression filled with concern. "Sometimes, during long flights, our minds can play tricks on us," she explained gently. "It's a phenomenon known as isolated cognition, where the brain creates imaginary experiences due to prolonged isolation and fatigue. It's more common than you might think, especially on transatlantic flights." Her explanation made sense, but I couldn't shake off the eerie sensation. I thanked Laura for her understanding and tried to distract myself for the remainder of the journey. As the plane finally touched down, I felt a sense of relief that the unsettling experience was over. Yet, as I stepped off the aircraft, the presence seemed to fade away, leaving me with an unexplainable feeling of loss. I tried to put the strange encounter behind me, chalking it up to an isolated cognitive experience, as Laura had suggested. However, it would forever remain a mystery, an unexplainable event that allowed me and the readers to perceive it in our own manner. Was it merely the result of fatigue and isolation, or was there something more to that eerie presence beside me? I'll never know for sure, but one thing was certain, That flight would be etched in my memory forever, a chilling encounter that challenged my perception of reality and left me with more questions than answers. If you enjoy listening to horror stories for hours at a stretch, then you are at a right place. Subscribe non-stop creepypasta horror stories right away. I'm Greg, a seasoned airline worker with years of experience in the aviation industry. This is the chilling encounter I had on a seemingly routine flight that exposed the dark underbelly of technical glitches and the potential for a catastrophic disaster. It was an ordinary day, and I was assigned to work on Flight 237, a red-eye journey that I had taken countless times. As a flight attendant, I prided myself on maintaining a calm and composed demeanor, but little did I know that this particular flight would test even my nerves. The passengers boarded the aircraft, their excitement palpable, ready to reach their destinations. Among them was a mix of seasoned travelers, families, and eager first-timers. The cabin was filled with a cacophony of voices, the hum of conversation, and the occasional laughter. As the doors closed and we prepared for takeoff, I went through the familiar safety procedures with my fellow crew members. We had our roles down to a science, working in harmony to ensure a smooth and uneventful flight. Once airborne, the cabin lights dimmed, and the hum of the engines provided a soothing backdrop to the journey. Passengers settled into their seats, some dozing off, and others engrossed in their in-flight entertainment. Amidst the calm, I noticed a peculiar blinking light on one of the control panels. At first, I brushed it off as a minor technical glitch, something that could easily be fixed by the flight engineers upon landing. However, my unease grew as the light persisted, and I decided to alert the captain about it. As I made my way to the cockpit, I couldn't help but notice the sudden drop in cabin pressure. My heart skipped a beat, and I felt a wave of panic rise within me. I knocked on the cockpit door, my voice trembling as I informed the captain about the blinking light and the sudden drop in cabin pressure. He reassured me that it was likely a minor issue, and the plane was designed to handle such situations. Relieved by his response, I returned to the cabin, but my unease lingered. I tried to put on a brave face for the passengers, going about my duties as usual. However, deep down, I couldn't shake off the feeling that something was not right. As the flight continued, the technical glitch escalated, and the blinking light now accompanied by an intermittent alarm. Passengers started to notice the unusual sounds and lights, and anxiety spread like wildfire throughout the cabin. The captain addressed the passengers, attempting to reassure them that there was no cause for concern. Yet, despite his best efforts, the tension inside the cabin continued to mount. A young mother approached me with her baby, her eyes filled with fear. "Is everything all right?" "What's happening?" she asked, her voice quivering. I did my best to remain composed, reassuring her that it was just a minor technical issue and that the crew and the captain were doing everything in their power to resolve it. But deep inside, I knew that the situation was more serious than anyone was letting on. The technical glitch was no longer just an inconvenience, it had the potential to be fatal. With each passing minute, the cabin atmosphere grew more tense, the fear palpable. I could feel the weight of responsibility on my shoulders, knowing that the passengers were placing their trust in us to keep them safe. As we approached the landing, I held my breath, praying that the plane would make it safely to the ground. The final moments of the flight felt like an eternity, the tension almost suffocating. And then, with a sigh of relief, the wheels touched the tarmac, and we safely landed. The cabin erupted into applause, a mix of relief and gratitude for a journey that had felt anything but routine. After the passengers disembarked, the flight crew huddled together to discuss the harrowing experience. The technical glitch had been far more serious than any of us had anticipated, and we were shaken by the close call. In the aftermath of Flight 237, the aviation authorities launched a thorough investigation into the technical malfunction. It was determined that a faulty sensor had caused the blinking light and alarm, leading to the drop in cabin pressure. The incident served as a stark reminder of the importance of rigorous maintenance and constant vigilance in the aviation industry. The chilling encounter on Flight 237 had exposed the vulnerability of even the most advanced technology and the potential for catastrophic disasters. As an airline worker, the encounter changed me forever. It deepened my appreciation for the countless safety measures that ensure passengers' well-being, and it made me acutely aware of the fine line between routine flights and potentially fatal situations. The chilling encounter on Flight 237 left me and the readers to perceive the importance of technical vigilance in the aviation industry in our own manner. It served as a reminder that human lives hang in the balance with each flight, and the potential for a disaster looms just beyond the veil of routine. I'm Captain James Anderson, an experienced pilot, and this is the harrowing tale of the flight that tested my skills and courage to their limits. As the dark clouds gathered above and the tempestuous winds howled, I found myself navigating through a relentless storm that threatened the safety of everyone aboard Flight 315. It was a routine flight that started like any other. The passengers boarded the aircraft with excitement and anticipation for their destination. As I prepared for takeoff, the weather report indicated some turbulence ahead, but nothing that I hadn't handled before. The takeoff was smooth, and we ascended into the skies amidst the serene beauty of the clouds. However, as we approached our cruising altitude, the weather took a dramatic turn for the worse. An intense storm cell loomed ahead, its dark fury stretching as far as the eye could see. The aircraft began to shake as we entered the turbulent skies, and the passengers could feel the sudden change in the atmosphere. The cabin crew swiftly prepared for the inevitable rough ride, strapping themselves in as the seatbelt signs illuminated throughout the aircraft. I informed the passengers of the storm ahead, ensuring them that we would do our utmost to keep them safe during the turbulent weather. Inside the cockpit, the instrument panel was a flurry of lights and alarms, signaling the severity of the conditions outside. As I communicated with the air traffic control, I could feel the weight of responsibility on my shoulders. My co-pilot, Lisa, remained calm and focused, offering support and assistance during the tense situation. With each passing minute, the storm intensified, battering the aircraft with fierce gusts of wind and pelting rain. The turbulence made it difficult to maintain a steady course, and I had to adjust the flight controls constantly to keep the plane stable. The radio crackled with updates from other pilots in the area, reporting the challenging conditions they were facing as well. The air traffic control provided us with alternative routes, but each option presented its own set of risks and obstacles. As the turbulence worsened, the passengers' anxiety became palpable. The cabin crew did their best to reassure them, offering drinks and snacks to distract from the nerve-wracking situation. I could feel my heart pounding in my chest as I navigated through the storm, relying on my years of experience and training to keep the aircraft on course. The safety of the passengers and crew was my top priority, and I knew I had to make the right decisions, even under extreme pressure. Despite our best efforts, the turbulence intensified, and the aircraft began to experience severe fluctuations in altitude. The constant buffeting made it challenging to maintain control, and I could feel the weight of the aircraft shifting beneath me. With every gust of wind, my mind raced, analyzing the best course of action to bring the plane to safety. The radio communication with air traffic control became increasingly urgent as they guided us through the storm and provided crucial updates on the weather conditions. As the storm raged on, I made the difficult decision to request a diversion to a nearby airport with more favorable weather conditions. Air traffic control granted our request, and we began the descent into the calmer skies below. The descent proved to be just as challenging as the ascent, as we encountered strong crosswinds and rain. The runway came into view, but the difficult conditions made it uncertain if we could land safely. With determination and focus, I made a series of quick adjustments, guiding the plane toward the runway. The wind howled against the aircraft, pushing and pulling as we fought to maintain control. The runway lights loomed closer, and I could feel the tension in the cockpit rise. My co-pilot and I worked in perfect sync, relying on our training and experience to bring the plane to a safe landing. With one final adjustment, the aircraft touched down on the runway, and the brakes engaged with full force. The plane skidded slightly, but I managed to bring it to a controlled stop, the passengers letting out a collective sigh of relief. As we taxied to the gate, the storm began to subside, the dark clouds dissipating and the winds calming. The passengers erupted into applause, grateful to have landed safely after the ordeal. The chilling encounter with the storm left me and the readers to perceive the intense reality of flying through turbulent weather. The experience served as a stark reminder of the incredible challenges faced by pilots and the importance of their training and expertise in ensuring the safety of all those aboard. Despite the adrenaline and fear that gripped me during the flight, the knowledge that we had landed safely filled me with a profound sense of accomplishment and relief. The storm-bound skies may have tested our mettle, but together, as a team, we had conquered the tempest and returned to calm skies once more. I am an airline worker, and this is the chilling encounter I had aboard Flight 237. Of course, that's not the real name of the flight. But if you are smart enough, you might be able to crack the real name of the flight after listening very closely to my chilling encounter. It was an ordinary day at the airport, with travelers bustling about, ready to embark on their journeys. As an experienced flight attendant, I had seen it all: turbulence, delays, and even unruly passengers. But this flight would be like nothing I had ever experienced before. As the boarding process began, I greeted passengers with a warm smile, striving to make their journey as pleasant as possible. Among them was a young woman, Emily, who stood out from the rest. She had an air of unease about her, as if something was troubling her. I offered a reassuring smile, hoping to ease her nerves. As the flight took off, everything seemed to be going smoothly. The passengers were settled, and the routine announcements were made. However, as we reached cruising altitude, an eerie sensation washed over me. It was a feeling of unease that I couldn't shake off, as if something was not quite right. I brushed off the strange feeling, attributing it to a long day and fatigue. But then I noticed a flickering light near the overhead bins. I approached to investigate, only to find that the light was perfectly fine, without any issue. Again, I dismissed it as a simple glitch and returned to my duties. Throughout the flight, that unsettling feeling persisted, as if there was an unexplainable presence on board. I tried to remain composed, but my heart raced with anxiety. As we prepared for the descent, the turbulence suddenly intensified. The plane jolted violently, causing passengers to grip their armrests in fear. I rushed to my seat and fastened my seatbelt, my mind racing with worry. In the midst of the turbulence, I glanced back at Emily, who seemed to be on the verge of panic. I approached her and offered some reassurance, but she clutched her necklace tightly, as if seeking comfort from it. "We'll be okay. This is just a rough patch of turbulence. The pilots are well trained to handle situations like this," I said, trying to maintain a calm demeanor. Emily nodded, but her eyes were filled with fear. "I just have a bad feeling about this," she whispered. The turbulence eventually subsided as we approached the destination. As the plane taxied to the gate, the passengers began to disembark. Emily was among the last to leave, her face still etched with worry. As I exited the aircraft, I felt a strange compulsion to check on her one more time. But when I turned back, Emily had vanished without a trace. It was as if she had never been on the flight at all. Confused and alarmed, I inquired with the other flight attendants, but none of them recalled seeing Emily or anyone matching her description. I even checked the flight manifest, but there was no record of her boarding the flight. Feeling unnerved, I approached the pilots, hoping they might have some answers. But they too were baffled, assuring me that no one had left the aircraft during the flight. I couldn't shake off the feeling that something was deeply wrong. The unexplained disappearance of Emily haunted me, and I couldn't find any logical explanation for what had happened. As I shared the story with my colleagues, some suggested that Emily might have been a stowaway or a passenger who had somehow sneaked onto the plane without proper documentation. But that theory didn't sit right with me. I knew what I had seen, and it wasn't something that could be easily explained away. The incident left me with more questions than answers, and it stayed with me, haunting my thoughts long after the flight had ended. I couldn't help but wonder if there was a rational explanation for Emily's disappearance, or if it was something more mysterious and unexplainable. In the weeks that followed, I heard whispers among my fellow airline workers about other unexplained occurrences on Flight 237. Some spoke of strange sounds echoing through the cabin, while others claimed to have seen fleeting shadows in the aisle. Each story was different, yet they all seemed to center around the same flight. The unexplainable event aboard Flight 237 remained a mystery, leaving us with our own perceptions and interpretations. Some believed it was a simple case of misplaced memory, while others speculated about a possible glitch in reality. But no matter the explanation, the chilling encounter would forever remain etched in my memory, a haunting reminder that sometimes, the truth is far stranger than anything we can comprehend. I'm Alex, a seasoned pilot with years of experience flying the skies. This is the chilling encounter I had during a late-night flight that left me questioning the boundaries of reality and the strange forces that lurk in the darkness. It was a moonless night when I took command of Flight 189, a red-eye journey that would take us across the vast expanse of the Pacific Ocean. The cabin was dimly lit, and the passengers were mostly asleep, their faces illuminated by the glow of their individual screens. As we cruised at our designated altitude, the atmosphere inside the cockpit was calm and serene. My co-pilot, Mike, and I exchanged the occasional nod, each engrossed in our responsibilities. But as the hours ticked by, an eerie feeling crept over me. The radio chatter was unusually quiet, the airwaves seemingly empty of the usual traffic and communications. I checked and rechecked the instruments, but everything appeared to be functioning perfectly. However, my unease only deepened when I caught sight of an inexplicable flicker of light outside the cockpit window. It was a rhythmic signal, blinking from a source that couldn't be discerned. "Mike, do you see that?" I asked, my voice betraying a hint of nervousness. He squinted at the window, trying to locate the source of the mysterious signal. "I see it too, but I can't figure out what it is. No other aircraft are in the vicinity, and there are no known satellites in this region either." We continued to monitor the signal, its rhythmic blinking and enigmatic dance in the darkness. It didn't correspond to any known beacon, and there was no logical explanation for its presence in the empty expanse of the night sky. As the minutes passed, the signal seemed to grow stronger, its pulsating light casting an eerie glow on the cockpit instruments. The radio chatter remained silent, as if the signal had enveloped us in a cocoon of isolation. I tried to contact air traffic control, seeking answers or guidance, but all I received was a deafening silence. It was as if the signal had cut us off from the outside world, leaving us adrift in the vast ocean with only the rhythmic blinking to keep us company. Despite the strange encounter, the aircraft systems appeared to function normally, and we continued our flight path, navigating through the darkness with caution. But as the signal persisted, an overwhelming sense of dread washed over me. It was as if the blinking light was communicating with us, trying to convey a message that we couldn't comprehend. "What do you think it means?" Mike asked, his voice barely above a whisper. I shook my head, my mind racing with possibilities. "I don't know, but something doesn't feel right. We need to stay vigilant and be prepared for anything." The hours dragged on, and the signal continued to blink, its rhythmic pattern unrelenting. The darkness outside seemed to grow thicker, as if the night itself held secrets that were best left undiscovered. As we approached the end of our journey, the signal suddenly intensified, its light blinding in its brilliance. The cockpit instruments flickered, and an eerie silence filled the air. With a jolt, the signal abruptly vanished, leaving us in darkness. The radio crackled back to life, and air traffic control's reassuring voice filled the cabin once again. But the sense of unease lingered, as if the encounter with the midnight signal had shifted something in the fabric of reality. Upon landing, we reported the inexplicable encounter to aviation authorities, but there was no explanation for the strange signal. It remained an enigma, a chilling encounter that defied explanation. In the years that followed, I couldn't shake off the memory of the midnight signal. It left me and the readers to perceive the encounter in our own manner, questioning the strange forces that may exist in the depths of the night sky. Perhaps there are mysteries in the world that elude our understanding, and sometimes, the darkness can hold secrets that defy our comprehension. The chilling encounter with the midnight signal serves as a haunting reminder that the skies, like the night, can be filled with enigmatic forces, waiting to be discovered. I'm Detective Sarah Campbell, a seasoned investigator, and this is the chilling case I encountered during a late-night police investigation that left me questioning the motives of the suspects and the shadows of deceit lurking beneath the surface. It was a stormy night, rain cascading down in sheets, as my partner, Detective Mike Turner, and I arrived at the crime scene. The victim was a prominent businessman, Mr. William Parker, whose lifeless body lay in a pool of blood inside his luxurious mansion. The crime scene was a labyrinth of clues and contradictions, and we knew this case would test our investigative skills to the core. As we started examining the evidence, it became apparent that there were multiple potential suspects with motives to harm the wealthy tycoon. Among the list of suspects were Mr. Parker's business partners, each with their own financial interests and a history of 10 stealings. Then there was the vengeful ex-employee who had recently been fired, leaving him with a burning desire for retribution. As we interviewed the suspects one by one, a web of deception began to unravel. Each suspect had an alibi, carefully crafted to cast them in the most innocent light. It was clear that we were dealing with cunning individuals, each skilled in the art of manipulation. While interviewing Mr. Parker's wife, a sophisticated socialite, her composed exterior cracked, revealing a glimpse of vulnerability. She claimed to be away at a charity event during the time of the murder, but there was a hint of hesitation in her voice. The mansion's security guard, a seemingly reliable witness, recounted seeing a mysterious figure lurking near the property on the night of the murder. His account seemed genuine, but there was a lingering doubt that he might be withholding crucial information. As the investigation progressed, we discovered hidden motives, secret affairs, and a convoluted financial network among the suspects. The truth was obscured by layers of deception, and we knew that unearthing it would require relentless determination. Amidst the chaos of our investigation, the media coverage escalated, putting additional pressure on us to solve the high-profile case swiftly. The public demanded answers, and the pressure mounted with each passing day. With time slipping away, we enlisted the help of forensic experts and crime scene analysts to meticulously examine every piece of evidence. The smallest detail could prove to be the missing link that would crack the case wide open. As we sifted through the evidence, we began to piece together the puzzle. The web of deceit was intricate, but we were tenacious in our pursuit of justice. Slowly, the veil of lies began to lift, and the true faces of the suspects were exposed. A breakthrough came when we discovered an overlooked security camera that captured the unguarded moments of the suspects. The footage revealed a tense confrontation between Mr. Parker and one of his business partners, a heated argument fueled by betrayal and greed. The evidence was compelling, and with the puzzle falling into place, we confronted the suspects with their lies. The mask of deception cracked, revealing a glimpse of fear in their eyes as they realized the walls were closing in. The interrogation sessions were intense, with each suspect attempting to shift blame and create confusion. But with hard evidence against them, their deceptive facade crumbled, and the truth was laid bare. In the end, the chilling investigation led to the arrest of the mastermind behind the plot to eliminate Mr. Parker. The suspects turned on each other, exposing their dark secrets and revealing the sinister alliances formed in their quest for power. As we closed the case, I couldn't help but reflect on the shadows of deceit that had clouded our investigation. The chilling encounter with the web of deception served as a stark reminder that appearances can be deceiving, and the truth may lurk in the darkest corners of human nature. Our pursuit of justice had unraveled a tapestry of lies, bringing to light the chilling motives that led to the murder of a wealthy tycoon. The shadows of deceit may have temporarily obscured the truth, but in the end, justice prevailed, as it always does, when the determined pursuit of truth is at its core. I'm Alex, a frequent traveler with a love for aviation, and this is the thrilling encounter I had during a layover at an international airport that left me in awe of the coordinated efforts of airport security and the daring capture of a felon. It was a balmy afternoon when I found myself at Gate 25, waiting to board my connecting flight. The hustle and bustle of the airport created a familiar hum as passengers rushed to their respective gates, and announcements echoed through the terminals. As I settled into a seat, I couldn't help but notice a commotion a few gates away. A team of stern-faced security personnel gathered around a man who looked visibly agitated, glancing anxiously around as if searching for an escape route. Curiosity piqued, I watched as the scene unfolded. The man's actions were unusual, and he seemed to draw more attention to himself with each passing moment. An airport security officer approached him, speaking in a calm but firm tone, and I wondered what had prompted this sudden intervention. It became evident that the man was trying to board a flight under an alias, and the officers suspected him of being involved in a serious crime. He was wanted by law enforcement for an ongoing investigation, and the airport security team had been alerted to his presence. As the airport security officer requested identification, the man grew increasingly agitated, his face flushed with panic. A sense of dread washed over me as I realized the severity of the situation. I was witnessing the capture of a felon. Unbeknownst to the man, the airport security team had been tracking his movements for days, waiting for the right moment to apprehend him without causing any harm to innocent passengers or airport personnel. With precision and a well-coordinated plan, the security officers subtly guided the man toward a secluded area away from the crowd. The airport staff ensured the other passengers remained unaware of the unfolding situation, preventing any panic or chaos from erupting. Meanwhile, a team of plainclothes officers swiftly moved in, surrounding the man before he had a chance to comprehend what was happening. The airport security team's swift and decisive actions were commendable, and I felt a sense of relief knowing they had managed to prevent any potential threat to the safety of travelers. As the handcuffs were placed on the man, I couldn't help but admire the courage and skill of the airport security team. Their ability to defuse the situation without causing any disruption to the airport operations was truly impressive. After the arrest, the airport security team's professionalism continued as they handed over the man to law enforcement officials, ensuring a seamless transition of custody. The other passengers at the gate remained blissfully unaware of the dramatic event that had just transpired before their eyes. The airport security team had managed to handle the situation with utmost discretion, safeguarding the integrity of the airport environment. I boarded my connecting flight with a newfound appreciation for the tireless efforts of airport security personnel. Their dedication to maintaining safety and security in the face of potential threats was nothing short of remarkable. As the aircraft taxied for takeoff, I gazed out of the window at the bustling airport below. The memory of the airport security team's swift and coordinated capture of the felon remained etched in my mind. The thrilling encounter had left me in awe of the complex and efficient operations that ensure our safety during air travel. I couldn't help but feel a sense of gratitude for the unsung heroes who work diligently behind the scenes, ensuring our journeys are smooth and secure. This thrilling real-life experience reminded me that behind the seemingly ordinary facade of airports, there are security teams constantly monitoring and protecting passengers, preventing potential threats from escalating. As the flight soared into the sky, I knew that the airport security team's bravery and dedication would always be at the forefront, working tirelessly to keep the skies safe for all travelers. I'm Laura, a seasoned flight attendant, and this is the chilling encounter I had during a transatlantic flight that left me questioning the boundaries of reality. It was an ordinary day, or so I thought, until the inexplicable events unfolded, leaving an indelible mark on my life. The flight was packed with passengers, all eager to reach their destinations. Among them was a peculiar-looking man, wearing a fedora and a long coat that seemed out of place in the modern aircraft. His mysterious appearance stood in stark contrast to the other travelers, but he exuded an air of confidence that intrigued me. As the flight progressed, the man mostly kept to himself, occasionally glancing out the window as if searching for something. I couldn't help but wonder about his story and what had brought him on this particular journey. Midway through the flight, as we crossed the vast ocean, a sudden bout of turbulence shook the aircraft. The passengers' chatter turned into hushed whispers, and anxiety hung thick in the air. I checked the cabin, making sure everyone was buckled up and safe. As I walked past the mysterious man's seat, he looked up at me, his eyes locking onto mine. There was something intense in his gaze, a knowing look that sent a shiver down my spine. "Are you all right, sir?" I asked, concerned about his demeanor. He smiled cryptically. "I'm fine. Just enjoying the view," he replied, nodding towards the window. I couldn't shake off the feeling that there was more to his words than met the eye. As the turbulence subsided, I returned to my duties, but the encounter left an unsettling impression. As the flight approached its destination, I did my final rounds, preparing for landing. To my surprise, the man in the fedora was nowhere to be found. I checked every seat, every aisle, but he had vanished without a trace. I alerted the other crew members, and we searched the aircraft thoroughly, but there was no sign of the mysterious passenger. It was as if he had never boarded the flight at all. The captain assured us that all the passengers had disembarked, and there was no record of anyone matching the man's description on the flight manifest. Baffled and unnerved, I reported the incident to the airline authorities, but they were equally perplexed. There were no reports of a missing person or any record of the man's boarding pass. In the weeks that followed, I couldn't get the enigmatic encounter out of my mind. The memory of the man's penetrating gaze and his inexplicable disappearance haunted my thoughts. I began to research, hoping to find some answers or similar accounts of vanishing passengers. To my surprise, I stumbled upon stories of other airline workers and passengers who had experienced similar unexplainable encounters. There were tales of passengers who vanished mid-flight, only to reappear after the journey had ended. Others claimed to have seen mysterious figures on the plane, vanishing into thin air before their very eyes. As I delved deeper into the accounts, I realized that there was an unexplainable element to air travel, something beyond the rational and logical explanations. The stories of vanishing passengers and inexplicable encounters served as a reminder that reality can be more elusive than we realize. To this day, I remain haunted by the encounter with the man in the fedora. Was he a time traveler, a ghost, or something else entirely? The chilling encounter left me and the readers to perceive it in our own manner, to wonder about the enigmatic forces that may exist beyond our comprehension. Perhaps there are mysteries in the world that defy explanation, and sometimes, reality can be more perplexing than any fiction. The vanishing passenger would forever remain an enigma, a reminder that life is filled with the inexplicable, waiting to be unveiled. I'm Sarah, a seasoned flight attendant, and this is the chilling encounter I had during a red-eye flight that left me questioning the boundaries of reality and the possibility of unseen forces at play. It was a stormy night when I boarded Flight 415, a routine red-eye journey that would take us across the country. The turbulence was expected, and the cabin crew and passengers were prepared for the bumpy ride. As we took off, the storm raged outside, and flashes of lightning briefly illuminated the darkened cabin. The passengers settled into their seats, many opting to rest or sleep during the journey. In the midst of the storm, I noticed an empty seat near the back of the aircraft. It wasn't unusual to have a few empty seats on a late-night flight, but there was something strange about this one. Throughout the flight, I found myself drawn to the empty seat, a feeling of unease gnawing at me. It was as if there was an unseen presence occupying that space, hidden from view but not from awareness. As I went about my duties, the feeling of being watched intensified. I caught fleeting glimpses of movement from the corner of my eye, but whenever I turned to look, the seat remained empty, shrouded in darkness. Attempting to shake off the unease, I focused on attending to the passengers. However, a sense of dread lingered, and the hairs on the back of my neck stood on end. During one of my rounds, I overheard a conversation between two passengers seated nearby. They were discussing a recent aviation accident that had occurred on a flight with the same number, Flight 415. The conversation sent a chill down my spine. I tried to rationalize the unease, telling myself it was merely a coincidence. Yet, the unseen passenger remained a constant presence in the back of my mind. As the flight progressed, the turbulence intensified, shaking the aircraft like a rag doll. The cabin atmosphere grew tense, and the passengers clung to their seats, their fear evident in their eyes. During one particularly turbulent moment, I felt a gust of cold air rush past me, carrying with it a faint whisper that sent a shiver down my spine. I couldn't make out the words, but the message was clear: there was something unsettling about the empty seat. I shared my concerns with the rest of the crew, but they dismissed it as an overactive imagination fueled by the storm. They assured me that the seat was simply unoccupied, and there was no cause for concern. But as the storm subsided, the feeling of being watched persisted, as if the unseen passenger had left an indelible mark on the flight. I couldn't escape the sense that there was more to this eerie encounter than met the eye. Upon landing, I approached the flight attendants of the next shift, sharing my experience and urging them to keep an eye on the empty seat. However, when they checked the passenger manifest, they found no record of any missing passengers or last-minute cancellations. In the days that followed, I couldn't shake off the memory of the unseen passenger. The chilling encounter left me and the readers to perceive the presence of the enigmatic figure in our own manner, questioning the boundaries of reality and the potential existence of unseen forces. Was it a mere trick of the mind, a figment of my imagination born from the storm's intensity? Or was there something more to the empty seat, a lingering energy, a presence from beyond the veil of the visible? The unseen passenger remained a haunting enigma, a reminder that sometimes, the unseen can be more haunting than anything we encounter in plain sight. It serves as a testament to the enigmatic nature of reality and the vast mysteries that may forever elude our understanding. I'm Sarah, a flight attendant with years of experience, and this is the chilling encounter I had during a transcontinental flight that left me questioning the limits of fear and the power of turbulence high up in the skies. It was a typical day at the airport when I boarded Flight 425, a long-haul journey that would take us across continents. The passengers seemed cheerful and excited, and the crew worked diligently to ensure their comfort during the flight. As the aircraft soared through the azure skies, the atmosphere inside the cabin was relaxed and jovial. Little did we know that our journey would soon take an unexpected turn. About 2 hours into the flight, we encountered turbulence that sent a ripple of unease through the cabin. It wasn't unusual to encounter bumps in the air, but this turbulence felt different, more intense, almost as if the plane was battling against an unseen force. The captain came over the intercom, reassuring the passengers that turbulence was normal and that the seatbelt signs had been turned on as a precaution. I smiled at the passengers, trying to ease their nerves, but in the pit of my stomach, a sense of foreboding gnawed at me. As we continued through the bumpy skies, the turbulence intensified, causing the plane to shake violently. The overhead compartments rattled, and the cabin lights flickered erratically. I could feel the tension in the air, and the passengers held onto their armrests, their knuckles turning white. I reassured them that everything was under control, but my heart raced with a mix of fear and adrenaline. Just as I was about to return to my seat, a loud bang echoed through the cabin, followed by a jolt that sent everyone lurching forward. The plane dipped sharply, and I clung to the nearest handhold, trying to keep my balance. The emergency lights flickered on, bathing the cabin in an eerie glow. Panic spread through the cabin as passengers shouted and cried out in fear. I could hear my own heart pounding in my ears as I tried to maintain a sense of composure. The captain's voice crackled over the intercom, urging everyone to stay calm while the crew dealt with the turbulence. The co-pilot's steady voice provided a much-needed reassurance, but the turbulence showed no signs of abating. As the minutes dragged on, the turbulence seemed to have a life of its own, gripping the plane in its relentless grasp. It felt as if we were trapped in a never-ending roller coaster ride, our fate uncertain with each jolt and dip. During the chaos, I noticed an elderly woman in the back of the cabin, her eyes wide with fear. I rushed to her side, holding her hand and offering words of comfort. Her grip tightened on my hand, and I could feel her trembling. In the midst of the turbulence, a sense of camaraderie formed among the passengers and crew. We held onto each other, providing support and strength during the harrowing ordeal. After what felt like an eternity, the turbulence began to subside, and the plane steadied once more. The captain's voice came over the intercom, assuring us that we were out of the rough air and that he would make adjustments to avoid any further turbulence. As we continued the flight, I couldn't help but reflect on the terrifying encounter. The chilling tale of the in-flight turbulence left me and the readers to perceive the power of fear and the fragility of human existence high above the clouds. Sometimes, it takes a brush with danger to appreciate the fragility of life and the strength that lies within us. The encounter with the turbulence was a stark reminder that no matter how advanced our technology, we are still at the mercy of nature's whims, and the skies can be as unpredictable and unforgiving as they are breathtaking and awe-inspiring. I'm Jake, a seasoned pilot, and this is the chilling encounter I had during a cross-country flight that left me questioning the boundaries of reality and the possibility of inexplicable occurrences high above the clouds. It was a crisp morning when I took the controls of Flight 782, a routine flight that would take us from one coast to another. The sun had just begun to rise, casting a warm glow over the aircraft as we prepared for departure. The cabin was filled with a mix of seasoned travelers and excited vacationers, all eager to reach their destinations. Among the passengers was a young woman sitting in a window seat near the front of the plane. She caught my eye with her striking appearance, her dark hair contrasting against her fair skin, and her eyes held a glint of something mysterious. As we soared through the clear skies, I noticed the young woman seemed lost in thought, her gaze fixed on the vast expanse outside the window. Despite the stunning views, there was a sadness in her eyes that tugged at my heart. As the flight continued, I couldn't help but feel a connection to the young woman, as if there was something about her that resonated with me on a deeper level. It was an inexplicable feeling, but one I couldn't shake off. During one of my rounds through the cabin, I stopped by her seat and struck up a conversation. "Is everything all right? You seem a bit distant," I asked, trying to be comforting. She smiled faintly, her voice soft yet filled with a hint of melancholy. "I'm fine, just lost in my thoughts." "Thank you for asking," she replied. I continued with my duties, but the encounter with the young woman lingered in my mind. There was an unexplainable pull towards her, as if our paths were meant to cross. As we approached our destination, I looked over to check on the young woman, but to my astonishment, her seat was empty. The realization hit me like a ton of bricks. She had disappeared without a trace. I alerted the flight attendants and searched the entire aircraft, but there was no sign of the young woman. It was as if she had vanished into thin air, leaving behind only the haunting memory of her presence. Upon landing, I reported the inexplicable disappearance to the airline authorities, but they were equally baffled. There were no records of any missing passengers, and the security footage showed her boarding the plane but never disembarking. In the weeks that followed, I couldn't shake off the memory of the disappearing young woman. The chilling encounter left me and the readers to perceive her vanishing act in our own manner, questioning the boundaries of reality and the potential for inexplicable occurrences. Had she been a ghost? A figment of my imagination? Or was there something more mysterious at play, an unexplainable force that had whisked her away, leaving only a fleeting glimpse of her existence? The memory of the young woman's disappearing act haunted my dreams, and I found myself questioning the nature of reality itself. Sometimes, it felt as if she was still there, a spectral presence lingering in the cockpit, silently guiding our flight. The encounter with the disappearing young woman serves as a haunting reminder that there are forces at play beyond our understanding, mysteries that may forever elude our grasp. It leaves us questioning the thin line between reality and the unexplainable, the tangible and the ephemeral, as we continue our journeys high above the clouds. I'm Rachel, an airline worker with a love for aviation history and mysteries, and this is the chilling encounter I had during a routine flight that left me questioning the boundaries of reality and the haunting legend of a ghost plane. It was a calm evening when I boarded Flight 513, a transcontinental journey that would take us across the ocean to a distant land. The cabin was filled with passengers excited about their travels, but amidst the chatter and laughter, there was an undercurrent of tension in the air. During the pre-flight checks, I overheard one of the flight attendants talking to a group of passengers about an eerie legend surrounding our route. They spoke of Flight 513, a plane that had mysteriously disappeared over the same stretch of ocean decades ago. According to the chilling tale, Flight 513 had vanished without a trace, and the wreckage was never found. In the years that followed, there were rumors of sightings of a ghostly plane in the skies, a phantom flight that would appear and disappear without a sound. As we soared through the night sky, I couldn't help but think about the legend. The darkness outside seemed to hold secrets, and I found myself glancing out the cockpit window, half expecting to catch a glimpse of the fabled ghost plane. During one of the quieter moments, I noticed something strange on the radar. A blip appeared, seemingly out of nowhere, and it matched no known aircraft in the vicinity. I called it to the attention of the co-pilot, John, who furrowed his brow as he studied the radar screen. "That's odd. There's no record of any other planes in our vicinity. It's as if the blip came from nowhere." As we continued to monitor the blip, the unease inside the cockpit grew. The legend of Flight 513 loomed over us like a shadow, and the thought of encountering a ghost plane seemed almost surreal. Suddenly, the blip on the radar vanished, leaving us in an eerie silence. It was as if the phantom flight had appeared and disappeared without a trace, just like the legend foretold. "Did you see that?" John asked, his voice barely above a whisper. I nodded, my heart pounding in my chest. "It's like the ghost plane from the legend," I replied, my words filled with a mix of awe and trepidation. The rest of the flight was uneventful, but the encounter with the blip left an indelible mark on my mind. The chilling legend of Flight 513 had seemingly come to life, and I couldn't shake off the feeling that we had experienced something beyond the ordinary. Upon landing, I shared the encounter with the rest of the crew, and we spoke about the haunting legend that had seemed to manifest before our very eyes. In the days that followed, I delved deeper into the history of Flight 513, researching the mysterious disappearance and the sightings of the ghost plane. It left me and the readers to perceive the encounter in our own manner, questioning the boundaries of reality and the possibility of otherworldly phenomena. Was it a mere coincidence, or had we truly witnessed a ghostly apparition from the past? The legend of Flight 513 served as a chilling reminder that some mysteries may never be fully explained, and the skies hold secrets that may forever elude our understanding. I'm Mark, an airline worker with a penchant for investigating aviation mysteries, and this is the chilling encounter I had during a red-eye flight that left me questioning the boundaries of reality and the enigmatic disappearance of a passenger. It was a stormy night when I boarded Flight 619, a routine red-eye journey bound for a bustling city. The passengers settled into their seats, and the cabin was soon enveloped in a hushed calm as the aircraft taxied towards the runway. Among the passengers was a man named Mr. Johnson, a middle-aged gentleman who appeared quiet and unassuming. He had boarded the flight alone, his face veiled in an air of melancholy. As we ascended through the dark clouds, turbulence rattled the plane, and the sound of thunder roared outside. I couldn't help but notice that Mr. Johnson seemed unaffected by the storm, his eyes fixed on the window as if he were contemplating something profound. During the flight, I made my rounds through the cabin, attending to the passengers' needs. However, when I approached Mr. Johnson's seat, he was nowhere to be found. His seat was empty, the space vacant as if he had never boarded the plane. Baffled, I checked with the flight attendants and the other passengers, but no one recalled seeing Mr. Johnson disembark or recall him leaving his seat. It was as if he had vanished into thin air. Alarmed, I alerted the captain and the airline authorities, but they too were at a loss to explain the inexplicable disappearance. There were no records of Mr. Johnson leaving the plane, and security footage showed no trace of him exiting the aircraft. As the flight continued, an eerie feeling settled over the cabin, the other passengers seemingly aware of the unsettling occurrence. Whispers of the vanished passenger circulated throughout the plane, and the legend of Mr. Johnson's enigmatic disappearance began to take shape. I couldn't shake off the feeling that something supernatural was at play, and I delved deeper into Mr. Johnson's background, hoping to uncover any clues that could shed light on his mysterious vanishing act. To my astonishment, there were no records of Mr. Johnson ever booking a ticket for the flight. It was as if he had materialized on the plane, only to vanish without a trace. As we landed at our destination, the sense of unease persisted, and I shared my account with the rest of the crew. The chilling encounter with the vanished passenger left me and the readers to perceive it in our own manner, questioning the boundaries of reality and the possibility of unexplainable events. Had Mr. Johnson been a ghostly apparition or a time traveler from another era? The legend of his vanishing act remained an enigma, one that continued to haunt my thoughts long after the flight had ended. The encounter with the vanished passenger served as a stark reminder that the world is filled with mysteries that may forever elude our understanding. Sometimes, the ordinary can collide with the extraordinary, leaving us questioning the enigmatic forces that may lurk just beyond the veil of the known.